Trigger warning. The following content discusses sensitive topics, including sexual abuse and trauma. It contains information that may be distressing or triggering for some viewers. Please take care when listening and prioritize your well-being. If you or someone you know has experienced abuse, resources are available to provide support and guidance. Viewer discretion is advised. The Catholic Church has been rocked by a scandal that spans decades, as over 1,300 victims finally see justice in an $880 million settlement against the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. This monumental agreement, marking the largest single payout in church history, uncovers a harrowing truth. Thousands of children were abused by trusted clergy, shielded by an institution more concerned with its reputation than the innocence of those it vowed to protect. The Archdiocese of Los Angeles has paid over $1.5 billion in settlements to survivors of SA, but the $880 million agreement reached in 2023 marks a tipping point in this decades-long reckoning. It's not just the largest settlement in church history, it's the culmination of years of unrelenting legal battles and painful truths that were kept hidden for far too long. Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking and monumental case, take a moment to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us spread the word and keep the conversation going on these critical topics. By supporting this content, you're ensuring that stories like this get the attention they deserve. Also, feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments, and let's continue raising awareness together. Now, let's get into the details. Welcome back to Life Points with Ronda, where we dive deep into the stories that matter most, unpacking the truth with a sharp and insightful lens. Today, we're tackling a dark, disturbing scandal that has rocked the Catholic Church, exposing decades of abuse and cover-ups. You're not going to believe how far this really goes, so stick with me as we unfold the shocking details. Grab your tea, because this is a story that will leave you absolutely disturbed. Part 1. Unmasking a decades-long cover-up. A legacy of silence. The early days of abuse. The abuse that took place within the Los Angeles Archdiocese is not new. The 1990s were rife with allegations against priests who had been abusing children for decades. Survivors, many of whom remained silent for years out of fear, shame, or intimidation, began stepping forward in growing numbers during this period. However, it was not until the Boston Globe's 2002 investigation into the Archdiocese of Boston that the floodgates opened nationwide, including in Los Angeles. Among the most notorious offenders was Father Michael Baker, a priest whose abuse of children spanned more than 2 decades. Baker's history, emblematic of the church's failure to act, came to light when he admitted to then Archbishop Roger Mahoney in 1986 that he had molested 2 boys. Rather than remove Baker from ministry, Mahoney sent him for treatment, a common church practice at the time. Baker would go on to abuse countless other children after being reassigned to new parishes. Mahoney's handling of Baker's case, along with many others, would later come under intense scrutiny. Mahoney was widely criticized for his role in covering up abuse cases, moving accused priests to different parishes, and shielding the church from public scandal rather than protecting the victims. Survivor stories, a cry for justice. Survivors of this abuse carry lifelong trauma, and their stories tell of systemic betrayal. These were not isolated incidents. Clergy members, often revered within their communities, took advantage of their positions of power to exploit vulnerable children. The church's systematic response, or lack thereof, left survivors without justice for years. For many, the physical and emotional toll of the abuse has been compounded by the church's refusal to take accountability. In 2007, the Archdiocese reached its first large settlement, paying $660 million to 508 survivors. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. The settlement, while historic, barely scratched the surface of the abuse and cover-up that had taken place for decades. Cover-ups and hidden crimes. The church's pattern of protecting abusers became clear through the release of thousands of internal documents, many of which revealed a shocking strategy of moving offending priests to different parishes. This practice allowed priests to continue their abuse unchecked while keeping the scandal out of public view. The documents also showed that church officials, including Cardinal Mahoney, knew about many of these offenses, but did little to protect the children or bring the perpetrators to justice. These revelations deeply damaged the church's reputation and raised serious questions about its leadership and priorities. The full scope of the abuse is staggering, and while the 2007 settlement brought some financial compensation to survivors, it left many questions unanswered. The church's legacy of silence and cover-ups only became more apparent as survivors continued to step forward, leading to the next chapter in this dark saga. The global financial fallout and the Catholic Church's struggle for recovery. The Los Angeles Archdiocese isn't alone in this catastrophe. Worldwide, the Catholic Church has paid out over $4 billion to settle abuse claims. In the wake of these mounting scandals, dioceses across the globe have been forced to confront similar financial crises. From Ireland to Chile, these settlements have pushed the Church into a global reckoning. Yet, few dioceses have been hit as hard as Los Angeles, whose $1.5 billion total payout sets a staggering precedent for how these abuses are coming home to roost. But what's truly disturbing is how the Church has managed to navigate this financial nightmare. In a controversial move, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles reallocated $115 million from its cemetery maintenance fund to help pay the 2007 settlement. This money, intended to care for the resting places of the deceased, was funneled into legal payouts without even informing the families. While legal, this decision sparked outrage, with many parishioners left feeling betrayed. The Church, for its part, defended the decision, claiming the cemeteries would remain fully operational and well-maintained. However, the damage to public trust was palpable. In addition to this, the Archdiocese relied on liquidating assets, investments, and even taking out substantial loans to meet the demands of these settlements. With $880 million now added to the tally, there are lingering questions about how the Archdiocese will continue to fund its vital ministries and social programs. Archbishop Gomez has assured parishioners that no funds earmarked for schools or parishes would be used, but the financial strain is undeniable. The Church, once a symbol of spiritual guidance, is now scrambling to balance its books. The Child Victims Act, a turning point for survivors. The $880 million settlement was made possible in large part by California's 2019 Child Victims Act, a groundbreaking law that extended the statute of limitations for survivors of child sexual abuse. Previously, victims had until their 26th birthday to file claims, but under the new law, the window was extended to age 40, and a 3-year look-back window allowed survivors of any age to file claims for past abuses. This change prompted a flood of new cases against the Los Angeles Archdiocese and other dioceses across California. For many survivors, this law provided a long-awaited opportunity for justice, giving voice to those who had been silenced for decades. With over 3,000 cases filed in Los Angeles County alone, the scale of the abuse is only now becoming fully visible. This legislation forced institutions like the Catholic Church to face the consequences of their actions, and it played a pivotal role in reopening old wounds, both legal and emotional. The impact on the Church's reputation and future. As the Archdiocese of Los Angeles continues to grapple with the financial repercussions, the social and moral costs are becoming just as pronounced. The credibility of the Church, once considered an unshakable pillar in many communities, has been significantly eroded. Parishioners who once found solace in their local parishes now question the integrity of an institution that harbored such deep-seated corruption. Cardinal Roger Mahoney, once a revered figure, was at the center of the storm. His role in covering up abuse cases, moving known predators from parish to parish, remains one of the darkest chapters in this scandal. In 2013, Archbishop Gomez stripped Mahoney of his public duties, an unprecedented move that marked a shift in how church leaders were held accountable. Yet, for many survivors, Mahoney's public disgrace wasn't enough. They want full transparency. a complete release of all documents related to the abuse scandal, something the church has been reluctant to do. For now, the Los Angeles Archdiocese faces an uncertain future. The financial burden of settlements, the potential for further claims, and the ongoing demands for transparency all loom large. This $880 million settlement is a major step toward justice for survivors, but it is far from the final chapter. The Catholic Church has a long road ahead if it hopes to rebuild trust with its followers, repair its shattered image, and, most importantly, prevent such abuses from ever happening again. The $880 million settlement and the reckoning. A new wave of lawsuits. The window opens. In 2019, California passed a law that opened a 3-year window for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to file lawsuits, even if the statute of limitations had long passed. This legislation sparked a new wave of claims against the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, many from victims who had never had the chance to come forward before. Some of these survivors were in their 60s and 70s, finally able to confront the trauma they had endured decades earlier. The 2023 settlement was the result of these lawsuits. Unlike other dioceses that declared bankruptcy to shield themselves from legal claims, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles opted to settle the cases without taking this drastic step. This decision was critical in ensuring that victims received their compensation in a timely manner, avoiding the long delays that bankruptcy proceedings often cause. The financial toll on the Archdiocese. The $880 million settlement has brought the total cost of sex abuse cases to over $1.5 billion, a staggering sum that has forced the Archdiocese to take dramatic financial measures. Archbishop Jose H. Gomez announced that the settlement would be paid through a combination of reserves, loans, and liquidated investments. This approach, though financially painful, was designed to prevent the Archdiocese from going bankrupt, a path that other dioceses, like San Francisco and Oakland, have taken in recent years to handle similar claims. To cover the costs of previous settlements, the Archdiocese sold off real estate, including its administrative headquarters, and reduced its investments. The financial strain of these settlements has not only impacted the Archdiocese's operations, but also raised concerns about how it will continue to support its various ministries and social programs. Survivor advocacy and calls for transparency. While the settlement represents a victory for survivors, advocacy groups like SNAP, Survivors Network of those abused by priests, argue that there is still much work to be done. They are calling for full transparency from the church, demanding the release of all internal documents related to the abuse cases. These documents, they say, could reveal the full extent of the cover-ups and bring justice to survivors whose abusers were never prosecuted. Dan McNevin, a board member of SNAP, emphasized that there are likely many more victims who have yet to come forward. He criticized the church for its reluctance to fully acknowledge the scale of the problem, noting that while settlements provide financial restitution, they do not offer the same level of accountability as criminal prosecutions or public disclosures. The broader implications for the Catholic Church. The $880 million settlement has sent shockwaves throughout the Catholic Church, both in the U.S. and around the world. It raises fundamental questions about how the Church will continue to handle abuse cases in the future, and whether the institution can regain the trust of its followers. For many survivors, the settlement is a step toward healing, but it cannot undo the damage done. The Church, they argue, must go beyond financial payouts and truly commit to meaningful reforms if it hopes to prevent future abuse and support those who have been harmed. Archbishop Gomez has expressed sorrow for the abuse, stating that the settlement is a step toward healing. However, survivors and their advocates remain skeptical, emphasizing that words are not enough. They demand deeper structural changes within the Church to ensure that no child is ever harmed again. As the Catholic Church faces this unprecedented financial and moral crisis, the eyes of the world remain fixed on how it will respond. Will it truly embrace transparency and accountability, or will it continue to protect itself at the expense of its most vulnerable members. The parallels: Sean Diddy, Combs allegations, and institutional cover-ups. The disturbing revelations about the Catholic Church's decades-long abuse of altar boys shares unsettling similarities with the recent allegations against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. While the cases differ in context, one involving religious institutions and the other involving the entertainment industry, the underlying pattern of abuse, power, and cover-up is eerily familiar. In both instances, those in power, whether clergy or high-profile celebrities, allegedly engaged in abusive behavior, knowing that their status would shield them from immediate consequences. Just as the Catholic Church was aware of clergy abusing altar boys, allegedly covering up the crimes to protect its image, the entertainment industry has long been accused of protecting powerful figures like Combs from facing justice. Combs has faced accusations of sexual assault and abuse in recent years, and while these allegations have not resulted in criminal charges, the cases bear a disturbing resemblance to how abuse of power can go unchecked for years. Why aren't more arrests being made? A question that's at the forefront of public discourse is, why aren't arrests being made in either case? How could such widespread and heinous abuse, whether in the Catholic Church or within the entertainment industry, go on for decades without any criminal repercussions? In the case of the Catholic Church, one of the main reasons that clergy were not arrested is the Church's immense power and influence. The Church was notorious for moving abusive priests from one parish to another, shielding them from law enforcement and public scrutiny. The Church hierarchy, much like powerful figures in the entertainment industry, protected its own to avoid scandal. Victims were often silenced, either through intimidation or settlements, with their voices suppressed under the weight of institutional loyalty and image preservation. Similarly, the entertainment industry, including figures like Diddy, wield significant influence. The lack of arrests and criminal accountability often stems from the immense resources available to high-profile individuals, legal teams, PR experts, and settlements out of court. Just as in the Church, there's a pattern of silence, denial, and behind-the-scenes deals that prevent victims from seeing true justice. The role of awareness, decades of silence. What makes both cases deeply disturbing is that in both the Catholic Church and in the case of Diddy, the abuse wasn't a secret. The world has known for decades that certain priests in positions of power were responsible for the abuse of altar boys. These weren't isolated incidents, but a systemic problem that the Church chose to bury. Similarly, rumors and allegations about Diddy have swirled for years, yet no significant legal consequences have emerged. Institutional awareness and responsibility. The key connection here is institutional awareness. The Catholic Church was fully aware of its clergy's behavior and chose to prioritize its reputation over the well-being of its most vulnerable members. Just as many in the entertainment industry have been accused of enabling or ignoring allegations against powerful figures, the Church had the means to address these abuses, but chose not to act. The question is, how many more of these powerful individuals or institutions will escape justice before real change happens? As we close out this discussion, it's important to reflect on the disturbing parallels we've uncovered, whether it's the abuse within the Catholic Church or the allegations against powerful figures in the entertainment industry. The pattern is clear: unchecked power, silence, and a failure to protect the most vulnerable. These aren't just stories, they're the lived experiences of countless survivors who deserve justice. This is more than just a headline. It's a call for change, a demand for transparency and accountability. If we don't hold institutions and individuals responsible, the cycle of abuse will continue, leaving more victims in its wake. Now, it's up to all of us. We need to raise awareness, keep the conversation going, and push for the reforms that will prevent future abuse. I urge you to share this video, spread the word, and support organizations that fight for survivors. It's time for society to stop looking the other way and start demanding justice, no matter how powerful the abuser or how influential the institution. Let's stand together to ensure that no more lives are ruined by abuse, silence, and cover-ups. Your voice, your actions, and your awareness can make a difference. Thank you for watching, and let's continue fighting for a safer future for everyone.
Well.
for joining me on Life Points with Ronda. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more relationship tips and life advice. Looking for more in-depth conversations and exclusive content? Visit my website at lifepointswithronda.com. Discover insightful podcasts, blog posts, and resources that will help you build stronger relationships and improve your daily life. Join our community on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for daily inspiration and updates. And remember, every relationship starts with you. Let's make life better together.